All right, we are going to get started here. It's 10 a.m. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you. My name is Ted Harris. I'm with the Pennsylvania Petroleum Association. The PPA is one of the association partners who co-host the Eastern Energy Expo. On behalf of all of our partners, we would like to welcome you to EEE On Demand 2020. EEE On Demand will be taking place the entire month of August. This includes business seminars taking place each morning at 10 a.m. like the one today, various live technical trainings happening throughout the month, as well as pre-recorded webinars that you can take advantage of by accessing the On Demand platform. Please access that On Demand platform to view a complete schedule of upcoming events as well as everything that's pre-recorded or like today's webinar, which will be recorded and put onto the platform. I would also like to encourage you to use the on-demand platform to view the 120 plus exhibitors who committed to our virtual show. Without these exhibitors and without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do this event. So please visit the virtual trade show. You can connect with exhibitors. You can view new products. Some exhibitors have show specials for you to take advantage of. So again, please take advantage of that and please interact with our exhibitors. Before we get started today, I would like to encourage you to ask questions. Questions make all of our presentations much more interactive and I think much more beneficial. So please ask questions. You're going to be on mute as an attendee, but you can type your questions in to GoToWebinar by using the question feature. Throughout the webinar or at the end of the webinar, I will moderate to Dennis and hopefully answer your questions. If for some reason we don't get to your question, I will make sure that I connect you with Dennis at the end of the webinar, and he will get in touch with you offline. So at this point, I would like to introduce our presenter, Dennis DiSempantino. Dennis is the Vice President of Sales for Cargus, and Dennis will be presenting how to use your data to manage your business. I think it's a very timely topic. In the world that we're living in today, I think you're seeing a lot of companies just work more remotely and just using data is going to be crucial moving forward. So at this point, I would like to pass it off to Dennis, and thank you.
Thank you, Ted, and thanks to the Eastern Energy Expo for allowing us the opportunity here at Cargus to present. As you can tell, I'm presenting from my home. At Cargus Systems, we've been working from home for almost 5 months since the pandemic hit, and as Ted said, it is a timely topic, and I really appreciate everybody taking time out of their schedule to join this presentation. We know everybody's busy, and we're definitely in trying times, and I'm sure we all would have liked to be in person for this presentation. They're typically a lot more fun, but going to do my best here to bring you the content that we think is really important for this time period. And ironically, this is sort of just a topic that we had scheduled to present this year, well before the pandemic hit that has impacted the world and the United States. So we're going to talk about how to use data to manage your business. We all use data today to manage our business in some way, shape, or form. But we're going to really dig into the business intelligence topic and talk about how you make business decisions, right? We make decisions every single day in life and in a business. But there are various ways to make business decisions. People, from time to time, they'll use gut feel. They'll work with consultants or peers or experts. Ideally, you build a great team and culture that makes business decisions a lot easier. Well, ultimately, you're gonna need to really look at data, right? And you're going to analyze the data that's in front of you to make good, sound business decisions, especially strategic business decisions to help grow your company. So as everybody knows here, right, we're in a competitive market. This industry has always been super competitive, and now it's becoming even more competitive. So timely access to data is more important than ever. So this concept of business intelligence and analytics has been around the industry for 15 plus years, right? But the adoption has been slow for whatever reason. And I think a lot of times the topic of business intelligence and data is heady for people, right? It's something that might be used for big companies, and not anymore. It's accessible really to any company that's small, medium, large. It doesn't really matter. It's accessible, it's affordable. So today, the goal really, and I'm hoping to help with the following, help define business intelligence of what it is, talk about how it's going to help your business and why you should adopt it, or why you should consider adopting it, and think about how you're going to roll it out at your company. BI is no longer negotiable. It is really a must in your business environment. So it's a buzzword, right? What is business intelligence? So we're going to break down that buzzword for you. Good companies out there, right, that are using multiple systems to manage their business. They leverage tools like business intelligence tools to kind of combine that data to get one centralized view of their data. So it's a technology-driven process for sure that involves a variety of functions, tools and technologies out there. Definitely involves people, right? You're not going to get this done by just implementing a system, right? It takes people, it takes leadership to roll out a business intelligence model within your company. So the definition. So the actual definition is collecting, analyzing, and presenting your business data in a way that's easy to understand so you can make better business decisions. And it's the tools that really help you do that. So we're going to talk through, in this slide, you're really looking at two different things here, right? The image on the left is a query out of Cargus Energy, our product, but it could be really any list of information, right? That could be an Excel spreadsheet, it could be a report on your desk, but that's essentially just a list, right? And so for you to really look at that list and pick something out that might be off, right? To look at that list and say, if it's an AR report to show a balance that might be too high, it's really hard to find, right? So that might be that query or that report or that list may be something you run on a weekly or monthly basis, right? The image on the right, very different, right? It's a dashboard that pulls together various aspects of your business. And this is just one example, but this example might have financial data, it may have delivery information, it may have service information, but it's eye-catching. You can tell right away if things are off, if you design the reports correctly. The other thing you can do is actually drill into each of those blocks or widgets that you see on your screen to get more information. Good business intelligence tools also let you drill in and make a change. So you may make a decision directly from the screen. So two different reports, right, that give you completely different views. One is way more easy to view and digest than the other. So business intelligence is visual, as you saw on the screen before, right? It's not a stagnant report based on a point in time. So that screen gives you up-to-date real-time information that you can drill into and go back or even look into the future if it's a forecasting screen. It's at a glance, right? So you can review critical information quickly and make a decision. It's instant, right? It's not something that takes a long period of time to go click a button and run a report. Ideally, those dashboards, those metrics are pre-built. So you come into the office in the morning, that dashboard's already there. Or in some situations, that report may be emailed to you. Traditionally, you might go into a system and you may need to run that report, and that may take time, depending on how long that report is. So we're going to talk through today how companies are using business intelligence. I have a couple of examples from within the industry, but business intelligence has been around a long time. A lot of other industries have been using it, going back to the 80s and the 70s. Take, for example, the medical industry. That business intelligence is key. Insurance industry, obviously, insurance companies have been using the data to manage their customer base, whether it's life insurance or car insurance. I'll give you a great example here. Since the pandemic hit here in the US back in February or March, most of us have been working from home. I received a check from my car insurance company, which was essentially a rebate. Now, highly unlikely somebody working at that insurance company just stumbled upon my account and made a decision to send me a check, right? They analyzed all their customers. They looked at their driving habits. They understood that people weren't driving as much and still aren't. And they sent a check to me, and I'm sure many other customers. And I'm sure they used, business intelligence or data analytics or algorithms to figure out how much each customer should receive. The other thing to note, and I think we've all been inundated with this, right? We've all seen the COVID-19 charts and graphs out there in the world, in the US, in each state, down to the county level, maybe even down to your town level, right? So that is information that's being pulled together from various sources all across the country. And people are using that information to make decisions, right? They may be good, they may be bad. So how are companies using it? They're using it to evaluate performance, their company and their people. They're using it to track progress against goals, which is maybe my most favorite use for this tool. And I think it's really important to adopt business intelligence to help track goals for your team, right? Your team wants to know where you're going, right? They want to know what performance metrics they're measured against. Identify and correct problems. So ideally, you put the metrics in place, you put together the things that you really want to see, and then you're going to identify an issue. If we go back a couple slides to the two different options I showed you, there's that list, really hard to identify an issue. Then there's a dashboard. You can identify the issue and correct it right away. Identify and track trends over time, right? So, especially in this business where there's a seasonal nature to this business, we're coming off a record warm winter, and we've had record warm winters over the past 10 years. So you want to really look back at the trends over time and evaluate your business and track those trends and compare the year-over-year results. So how did this past winter compare to other winters where there was record warmth? Make strategic business decisions. That's ultimately what the data should do for you. And keep just a reminder, Ted is manning the chat line, so feel free to lob in questions. I'll be happy to answer those throughout the presentation, and we'll definitely have some time at the end. But we'd love to have some questions, throughout this presentation. We want to keep it vibrant. We want to keep the dialogue going. So, how does this apply to fuel dealers, right? How does this apply to this industry? How does it apply to your service business? There are a lot of companies out there using business intelligence tools, probably more than you think. So, evaluating performance. These are probably the four big ones. Cargus did a industry survey, and we built a tech trends report. We got some great information back from companies in this industry and what they use, which reports, what key metrics they use. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But let's unpack the list here of items that we have. So you have sales by product or location. We hear this second one all the time. Profitability by customer or contract, right? Everybody wants to know customer profitability. And all customers, as you know, are not created equal, right? So ideally, you're establishing some sort of customer score that goes along with customer profitability. A residential customer versus a commercial customer versus an agriculture customer, they're not the same. Even within your residential customer base, they are not the same. So the other aspect is what goes into profitability. Are you tracking all of your costs? You have margins by product or margins by category, whether it be fuel or service or different levels of service contracts. You want to really focus in on those margins. And then this is a big one, right? Everybody wants to see this one, especially on the driver side, performance for drivers and technicians. So tracking progress against goals. And, in sort of preparing for this presentation, I talked to a handful of companies in the industry, and through our tech trends report, we got some really great feedback. So these goals, these tools can really be used to engage your team in a positive way. And so you can give your team goals, and I think a lot of people have goals for their teams, and they may not be visual and they may not be documented, but you have them, and you want to really set goals for your team, and you want to track progress, right? So for a dispatcher, you may track route optimization, you may track runouts, you may track other things that you think are important for your business. You have drivers, you might have gallons per stop, right? You may have number of deliveries in a day. You may also evaluate your drivers on the number of miles they drove. If are they following the route that the dispatcher built? So there's many things out there that you could use. Technicians, right? Billable time versus non-productive time. We've been hearing that since Cargus entered this industry over 15 years ago. Companies were focused on tracking that non-productive time because they were trying to turn a profit in their service department. CSRs, right? You really want to track customer retention, not just customer adds, customer retention, churn rate. It's sort of adding new customers versus losing customers. Churn rate is really important. It's not just about who you add. If you add 10 and lose 15, well, that's not good, right? So that's a metric that's used a lot for customer service out there. So create incentives to reward those meeting or exceeding their goals. Don't use the tracking progress against goals as sort of a way to point out all the bad things. But it can, as we sort of flow into the next slide, you could use those metrics to identify and correct problems, right? Some of the key things we see out there are obvious, right? Suboptimal drops, runouts, low margin accounts, right? These are sort of some of the top things we see out there. And you could use business intelligence and dashboards to quickly see those things getting off, right? They may be off from previous years, or they just may not be up to the goals that you set out for your team and your company. Seasonal profitability, right? That's a big one in this industry, right? How are you performing during the winter when you're making deliveries? How are you performing in the spring and summer when your service business should be ramping up? Customer retention rate. And the other one's really return on investments, right? Return on assets. You invest a lot in your business. You invest a lot in capital assets and people. They're all assets. You need to see a return on those assets, right? You're not just going to invest in equipment or people without seeing a return. I'll pause there. Ted, do we have any questions? Give me just a quick thumbs up or thumbs down.
So only question we've received so far is this going to be available? Is recording going to be available? And the answer is yes. It will be available through the on-demand platform starting tomorrow.
Yep, and that's a great reminder, great question, because since people have been working from home, especially at Cargus, most people are attending a lot of virtual sessions. We know it's a lot, and the content can be overwhelming at times. It's always great to kind of go back and look at presentations and demos and things like that. I do that all the time. So the other way, business intelligence is leveraged, and this is maybe the most important, is to support strategic business decisions. So, things that, I've talked to other companies in the industry about, can you consolidate assets, whether they're, people or assets or trucks or locations? Should you close or add a location? Like, have you penetrated a region where, your brand has grown and you kind of need to grow into other areas that might be close geographically, but not the same set of customer base? Should you stop selling a product or service, right? Do you have maybe types of service contracts or service offerings that you do out there that are not profitable, or that others, you're in a competitive situation and you're losing? Should you expand that product or service offering? Should you get into different lines of business? Should you diversify what they're offering? Diversification has been around this industry for a very long time, right? And it's becoming more and more important. It's becoming more important to be focused on your business and focused on the areas that drive profitability. So again, I mentioned that Tech Trends report that Cargus produced, and it was all really based on information and feedback from from the industry. And so I'm going to talk through 10 metrics here. I'm not going to dig into all of them. You guys really know this, right? Margin by gallon, product, customer. That was the top one really out there in the industry. Gallons per mile per hour. Runouts, that's always a big thing. You know, companies like Cargus, we have a technology platform. You bet if we're not tracking runouts or if we're not doing a good job forecasting in our application, we're going to hear about it from our customers. Stops made or missed in a geographic location. I think the other factor is you're looking at optimal drop size, right? But I think a lot of times in this industry, what we forget about is if you're going out to an area and you're making deliveries to customers in a specific area that you may not be going back to for some time, and you have customers that are due for delivery 1 or 2 or 3 weeks out, you may want to make a smaller drop to multiple customers in an area so that you're not going back out there in the future. It's costly to run trucks, as we know, costly to manage people and keep people on staff. Again, new accounts added or lost, churn rate. So these are things, these are not Cargus items, right? This is feedback from our customer base and from the industry and companies who are not our customers. A couple other things. A couple things that were surprising that were not on the list. Cash flow and balance sheet information was not on the list, which surprised me. I think now more than ever, going through a pandemic, coming off a warm winter, cash management is really important. And not just like signing into your bank account to look at your current cash. It's really forecasting into the future, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months out. How much cash are you burning through? That has become super important for every single industry. And I think you'll see in business and even in a lot of people's personal lives, people are holding on the cash right now. They're not investing as much, not spending as much money. Budget plans. Another key thing you should be looking at tracking. Gallons per degree day, normalized for weather. This is one that did not pop up that we think is really important. And if you talk to some progressive people and companies in the industry, they look at this. And then another one is gross profit per hour in service, right? So how are you doing? Looking at it down to the hour. So you need really good reporting tools to be able to do that. You're not going to run a report next week or a month out and be able to find out information like that. You need a business intelligence platform to be able to predict things like that. So,
hey, Dennis.
Yeah.
Hey, so question came in from I guess a Cargus, and obviously there's other fuel delivery software platforms out there, but what does Cargus see with a company, we'll say a standard fuel company with 20 employees? How many individuals have access to these management tools, to these analytics? What type of structure do you see that's the most successful?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. Yeah, great profile, right? Maybe a family-owned 20-person company. And I think it really depends on each company. We would like to see everybody really have access, but then you implement security to provide access only a certain level. So I think really you want to give access, for example, to drivers, to technicians, to customer service people. And I think you want to set goals at those levels, but only give them access to that information, right? There's going to be management and executive access and information that you don't want people to see, right? So I think the security is really important, and sort of we're going to talk a little bit later how you implement BI and how you might want to think about rolling it out in your company. I think there's certainly executive level, management level, and then individual role level access. But I think it's important to share these analytics and data across the whole company. People really want to know where they're going. So competitive advantages. Companies that do this really well, they want to understand their business better, right? They want to engage the team, like the question we just got, like engage your team, give them the data. Don't just give it to them, but first, sort of map out where you think you should be going as a business, map out where you think they should be going in their role, and then come back to that, maybe on a monthly basis or, once a quarter. Make better future predictions, right? I think that's really what it's about in business today, right? It's not just about where you've been, historically, where you are today. It's about, sort of where you're going in the future. And analytics really can help you do that. Looking at trend lines, how do you look at hiring maybe as you grow? And then jump on opportunities faster, right? Maybe the opportunity to acquire, the opportunity at a line of business. So we're going to talk about 3 use cases. We just had one pop up, a 20-person company, as somebody mentioned. The first one is really a company profile, very similar, I think, to what we just heard. Maybe a little bit bigger. So family-owned business with 1 or more locations in 1 state. So this is very similar, right? This should hit home. And so there's a couple companies I talked to in the market that are I feel are progressive. And so key takeaways from those conversations, key metrics they really look at. Again, profit by customer, but what they said is accurate cost is key. You really need to look at all the assets involved, tanks, trucks, people, how much it costs to make a delivery, how much it costs to take phone calls. Some of the people that are really doing this well, the progressive thinking companies, they look at all that. I think historically, customer profitability has been a key metric, but are you really looking at the true profitability of each individual customer? Margin by product, by customer type. I think, in conversations, this is a really good point. So if you think about a propane company that has steel out there at customer locations, and you compare maybe a commercial customer or an ag customer to residential. And so what are the margins on that ag account versus a commercial account versus residential? They could be very different. So you may be doing a lot of gallons with an ag customer, but the margins may be way lower. So you may want to move that steel to a larger residential customer or a commercial customer that has more higher margin. That's a tough decision to make, right? Gallons are king, or they have been king in this industry, but you really got to look at the margin and the return on those assets. Again, measuring churn rate, but incentivizing managers to do that, especially in the customer service area, or if you have a general manager. Competitive locations in the geographic market. So if you have locations that might butt up against each other, really look at those, but they may offer different services. So you may have a service where you offer propane and heating oil in a market. One location does much better with the other. You may have walk-up propane business in one that you don't have that in the heating oil business. Thinking really progressive, right? Internal rate of return, right? IRR. So if you look at your business and you have a specific return rate, say 10%, if you're going to invest, whatever investment you make must be higher than that 10%. Return on assets. Again, that's a big one that we continue to focus on. And then ideally, these people said employees really like the data and performance metrics. At first, that it may be new to them, but after you really implement it, they love it, right? They love to know where they're going, and then how you're really evaluating their performance. Second use case is a large operation, maybe across multiple states, maybe a national type of company with different lines of business. Now they're gonna look at their business very differently than I think the regional player or the mom and pop that's in one state. For them, consolidation of databases is key. Having one technology platform. You don't want to be on disparate databases and then having to run reports from those databases and having to sort of try and pull that together. One technology platform is key. Data structure and clean data is imperative. And I would say this for anybody, right? You need to have clean data. If you're reporting off of bad data, then you're in trouble, right? You need to, as part of your BI strategy, that's going to be part of the process. Tank turns is really important for them. You think about how a larger company, the amount of tanks they have out there might be several 100,000, maybe 100,000. Asset utilization again, right? You're buying a lot of steel, you're buying trucks, you're putting people in those trucks, service vans, technicians, and then using metrics to positively motivate staff. That's a recurring theme. You don't want to use it as a tool as a demotivator. Okay, Ted, you got some questions?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there. So I want to avoid making this a specific Cargus question, but we did have a question come in. I think, if you could try to answer it within the industry, what you're
Absolutely. Yeah,
seeing
we
that's
have,
out
we,
there.
we have,
Uh,
yeah, Cargus,
do
Cargus has
you
installed.
are you yep, are you aware of any ROI tools for quoting a large account based on tanks, labor, parts included, anticipated per margin? So, in other words, you're going out to quote a large commercial account, and there's some type of formula in place to kind of understand
Yep.
profitability on that account before you actually bring it on.
Yep. I mean, we certainly have customers that are doing that, and be happy to connect people, especially if they're not in the same region. And I think if they're attending, the couple that I'm thinking of, if they're on this webinar, they're probably not competitors. And so if we could get the information, Ted, from that person, I would be happy to connect them with, I think, one or two companies that are doing a really good job of this.
Excellent. Thank you.
You got it. So we're going to roll into a third use case, and so this is Cargus, right? I thought it'd be good to have one that's outside the industry, and Cargus is a really good example because we're a product company, we're a software company. We are also a reseller company, so we have multiple business units, multiple lines of business, and different types of businesses within our company. So you got the resale company, where we're a Microsoft Dynamics CRM and Business Central reseller and GP. And then we have Sage Intacct, where we're a Sage Intacct reseller, which is a cloud-based accounting package. And then we have our product company, we have Cargus Energy. So multiple business units, different lines of business that are very different. A product company from a resale company is different. Although on the product side, we do build it and we do implement it and support it ourselves. There's other business units we're reselling somebody else's product and we're only doing the implementation. And so we have multiple business systems. We have a accounting system, we have time entry, we have help desk and support, we have project management, we have CRM. So we have all these systems that people use throughout the organization. We have 150 people. So how are we going to report, right? Each of these tools has really good reporting. Some of them have really good BI and dashboards. But at the management level and the executive level, we need to pull this information together. So we use Microsoft Power BI. It's a business intelligence tool. And we have a financial analyst and we have our accounting team that leverages that tool, pull the information together so that we're able to get good financial information. We're able to get comparable information across similar roles. So you have consultants in each business unit. You're able to compare, consultant utilization. You're able to compare sales and marketing metrics across each business unit. And that would not be able to happen without a BI tool. Before we had the BI tool, again, we were just like everybody else, right? Exporting information to Excel, building our own dashboards, trying to get the information all in one spot, but it took so much time. And so BI has been a game changer for us to really evaluate our business across multiple business units and also look into the future. So again, I mentioned, you don't need to be a large company, right? You could be the 20 employee company. There are tools out there that you can subscribe to. There are tools out there within various back office systems in this industry, not just Cargus Energy. Like I said, BI has been around this industry for 15 years. There's just been slow adoption, and they're affordable. You have access to them. So I'm going to talk through different examples. So you have, ideally, the first example, the easiest one is embedded tools. So tools that are in your back office system, like Cargus Energy, that are readily available. That's the easiest and most ideal, right? Because it's in the system, you can report off of it. Ideally the data is good, the structure of the data is good, and it's coming from one data source. Typically, your operational system will have some level of reporting, but ideally they have business intelligence and they have dashboards. So the second option, the other option I think that's really important is if you have multiple systems, right? You have an operational system, you have an accounting system, you might have CRM, but just in where you have sort of accounting and operational system, you want to make sure those two tools are integrated. If you have an operational system, you want that integrated with your accounting system. What I'm showing here is a screenshot of Sage Intacct, which has dashboards built in, right? But those dashboards become way more useful if that information is flowing over from your operational system. So you have your monthly financials that you run, but if that information can be pushed over daily or weekly, then you have better reporting and better dashboards inside that financial system. So integration is key with BI. That dashboard inside of that financial system is not as impactful if you don't have the integration. The other option is external tools. You have tools out there like Power BI and Tableau and many, many others. I think there's been a lot of innovation in sort of the BI world out there, data analytics, whatever you want to call it. So you might have a dedicated business intelligence tool like we have at Cargus that sits on top of everything else, and all the reporting flows up. So you might have a field delivery system, CRM system, marketing, automation system, accounting system, all flowing up to a single database or single data structure with BI on top of it. I'll pause there, Ted. Any questions before I dig into sort of the next few slides?
Not at the moment.
All right, cool. So we're going to talk about, over the next few slides, developing your reporting and BI strategy. So when you take a step back, and I think that question we got earlier around the 20-person organization was perfect. So I think the first step really to get your mind around this, if you're going to go down this path, right, you really need to choose an internal sponsor or project leader. And you probably have somebody on your team that you can pick or leverage to kind of own this project, right? So you want to get buy-in from owners and managers and buy-in throughout the organization in different roles, which can be tough, right? We know it's tough sometimes to get delivery drivers or service technicians or other people in roles to buy into this concept. You want to determine the project scope, the training requirements, and really the outcome. What do you want to get out of this? And then really establish ownership and accountability throughout the organization if you're going to go down this path. You want to start with the data you want to see. What metrics do you want to track, right? You have high-level metrics for maybe executives or managers that you only want them to see. You don't want to burden the rest of the organization with those metrics. You have roles-based metrics to support your team. We talked a lot about this earlier. You have managers, dispatchers, drivers, CSRs. You might have somebody in credit, right? That is, is a totally different metric than anybody else in the organization. And then, ideally you have these performance metrics for team members. So then you got to figure out how to get it, right? How are you going to get this data? Ideally, it's in your back office system today. If not, you got to sort of figure out, the project lead or management is going to need to figure out what system you're going to put in place if it doesn't exist today. So can you get the information out of your software? Do you need to select data management system, a BI system? Is your information accessible, right? Is it in systems or is it on paper? Do you have paper delivery tickets? Do you have paper work orders, right? That is still out there in this industry. Are you running reports and you have stacks of reports on your desk, right? That's got to move into a system so that you can report of it. And then last but not least, data integrity, right? Data scrubbing and cleanup. That is key, right? You have to have really good data to be able to report off that information. Yeah, so, and then decide on how often do you want to report it on this. Is it graphs? Is it charts? What is the best thing for your business? Is it daily, weekly? Ideally, it's both, right? There are certain, tools that we use internally at Cargus. I get a daily report. I look at it every morning, right? It's not just a BI tool. It's a little bit more detailed reporting. Instead of me having to go find it, go log into the system and find it, that report appears like 7:30 in the morning. As I'm drinking a cup of coffee, I look at that information. So you want to set up those daily dashboards. You want to set up those daily reports, the weekly reports. Maybe compare week over week information. And so to wrap it up here, and some of the key takeaways I really took from conversations out there in the industry is you want to test and refine. Do you need to change any processes within your business to make sure data is entered into your system in a timely manner? Like I said, it might be delivery tickets, work orders, whatever it might be, to get accurate data. Are the reports and dashboards you created delivering the insights you need, right? You started out in the beginning, you had these metrics you wanted to track. Is it giving you what you need? Do you need to sort of go back and evaluate sort of what you want to report off of? Have they brought other questions to light that you need to answer, right? Are there other things maybe that you missed during an initial evaluation phase? So this is really a process, right? This is not something that's once and done, right? You need to sort of refine that data. You need to go back to it, every quarter, years into the future as you're using these tools. We always find at Cargus that we always think of new things that we want to analyze once we've seen the data. And what we have today is very different than what we have, 2 or 3 years ago when we started the process. So it's an evolving thing. It's an ongoing thing. The recommendation would be to start small, right? Don't overwhelm your team and yourself with too much data. So to wrap it up there, I want to thank again the Eastern Energy Expo and Marge and Ted for giving us the opportunity to present. Again, I know we've had some questions funnel through Ted, and we might have some more here. That's Adam Harrison, our sales development representative. Feel free to reach out to Adam if you have any questions for Cargus directly, or if we can help in any way. So I'm going to turn it over back to Ted here to see if we have any more questions coming through the chat line.
Yes. So Dennis, thank you for being a part of our event. Much appreciated. Do have one question, and again, I'm gonna kind of generalize this question, and then I'll let you follow up with this individual after the fact. But so Cargus is a back office software platform. There's other back office software platforms in the industry. How, from an integration perspective, with some of the items that you're talking about, from a BI application, what is there options for companies that have software A and they're potentially they want to use a different BI application? Is there integration? And again, I know this is specific on a company per company basis, but could you just kind of give a very general response to that in regards to is there options out there?
Yeah, there's a lot of options. I mean, I think one of the struggles I think you'll have if you go down this BI path is, if it's not from within the industry, like, Cargus has sort of our embedded dashboards, but you need our tool to use those. So you're not going to typically take our dashboard tool and apply it to some other system. There's a tool, Bright has been around the industry from Angus a long time. They're sort of within the industry. They have a tool that'll attach to any system out there. And then outside the industry, there are a lot of options. So I think anytime you go down this path, you want to sort of evaluate what's out there. I mentioned Power BI, I mentioned Tableau. There are others out there, and you really want to limit that down and maybe narrow down the top 3 if you're going outside the industry to look at tools. And those tools are affordable now. They typically have, layers within them to build the integration or attach to your current system.
Thank you. We did get another question just about the availability of this webinar, and again, it is being recorded. It will be available on the Eastern Energy Expo on-demand platform. You have to have a login in order to access that platform, and once you do that, like I said earlier, to kick off the webinar, you'll have the availability to interact with exhibitors such as Cargus, as well as the other 120 plus exhibitors that we have. So I encourage you all that are on this webinar, please go to the Eastern Energy Expo website. You'll see a login button, and you'll be prompted at that point to either log in using your existing credentials, or you can create a new profile at that point. There is no limit to how many people within your company can register for the Eastern Energy Expo. It is free, so please take advantage of that. And this recording will be up within that platform, hopefully by tomorrow. So that is the response to that. Just a general comment. Well done, Dennis. Good job, Dennis. So, and actually another question that we haven't had, and I would think Dennis is okay with this, but are the screenshots in a PDF format, and can I have access to them?
Absolutely. Yep. Be happy to share. We definitely wanted this to be more educational in nature for the industry. We're in the industry as well, and we definitely want people to adopt these tools. We think it's important for their business, and especially the situation we're in, sort of in the world today. And I think this industry to some degree is under attack, right? So with the electrify everything and everything else is that out there. So I think having BI tools and analytics is really important for all companies.
Excellent. So the individual that asked that, I will get that to you directly, but I will work with Dennis and we'll get this PDF uploaded in the EE on demand platform as well. So with that being said, we don't have any other questions. So Dennis, thank you. Appreciate your time, appreciate your expertise, and I hope everyone has an excellent rest of the day.
Thank you, guys. Everybody have a good day. Take care.
Take care.